with you girls, that's fine too. Stay with me. This is a powerful thing, right? This actually makes the gates of hell shudder. Because what we have right here is we have young men and women who say, you know what, more than anything else in my life, I want to put Jesus Christ at the center, and I want to make him known to everything around me, and everyone around me. And that makes the gates of hell itself shudder and shake. This is a very, very powerful thing. It's no small thing. And you may just be thinking, I kind of came to the 1,000 Foot Crutch concert last night and I got rolled into this, or I'm just sort of here so I don't have to be home today. That's fine, but my sense is God is actually going to collide your expectations with his expectations for you in your life, with his dream for you in your life today. It's totally possible that literally the trajectory of your life could change today. I believe that. That's why we're here. I believe that that's actually possible, and that for some of you today, that is going to happen. God is going to change things in you that change the world around you. And if you want to see your school change, you want to see your friends change, right? Some of you would like to see your church change a little bit, right? If you want to see your family change, you want to see your city changed, if you care about that kind of change, it starts when God changes your heart. It starts when you let God speak into and change maybe some things that you've built and assumed were what your life is supposed to be about today. We're going to trust that God is going to change those things in us so that we can live the life that he created us to live. That's why we're here, to be with you guys. And like I said, we come from Chicago. We've got my wife, Jeannie, you'll meet her in a little bit. We've got two little ones in our family, so they're staying with their grandma this weekend, and they're not upset about that, because at Gammy's house, it's like no laws there. It's just like mayhem and chaos and candy corn until 9 o'clock at night. They're not upset that we're here. They want us to stay all week, but we can't do this. So I brought a picture. I want to see if we have it of our family, just so you can kind of see our little ones. We just celebrated our son's 5-year birthday this last Saturday. And so he was so bound and determined to have a superhero party. There was no talking him out of it. And so that's our son Elijah on the right, my wife Jeannie there, and then that's our daughter Gigi up at the top. She's our little chunky diva in the house. And then that's me dressed as Robin. We had so much fun at his party. It was really fun to see all the little kids dressed up. Really uncomfortable to see all the adults dressed up in tights. I'm still trying to get some of those images out of my mind. One of the leaders from our church came as a Ninja Turtle because he never got to dress as one as a kid. This was his chance to dress as a Ninja Turtle. And he wore his wife's short running shorts and tights. And again, now I've shared this with you. Now you're a part of my pain. It was really, really uncomfortable, but a very, very, very fun party. And we're here this weekend. Our kids are back home, and we're here because we really believe God wants to change something. And it starts in you. Because we've seen this happen in us. For the last year now, my wife Jeannie and I and a team of other people have been planning and preparing and working and praying to open doors to a church right in the heart of downtown Chicago. And it's a bunch of stories that we would love to share with you guys if we had more time, but we've literally have been given by God a space in the heart of Chicago. So how many of you guys are familiar with Oprah Winfrey? I think there's lizards in Africa who know who she is. Okay, good. Good. We are just 3 blocks south of Oprah's studios. Right? So we're like right in the heart. We're really hoping to become one of her favorite things, right? You're going to church, you're going to church. We want her to send all those people to our church. And so we're in the thick of it, and we are up to our eyeballs trying to get this little space that's been given to us. It's actually quite a large space that's been given to our church, renovated and open. And all along the way, what we realized is that as my wife and I and the two of us have been working to build this church, that God has actually been building a church in us. And that while we're working with our hands and we're trying to get doors open and we want to serve our city in lots of cool ways, God has actually been doing that internal work in us all along the way. And about a year or so ago, my wife was driving. We lived in Atlanta, Georgia for a while. It's a place that doesn't understand the concept of winter, by the way. We know, right? Toronto, Ontario, you guys know. Chicago, we know winter is. They call it winter down there. They don't deserve the right to call it winter in Atlanta, Georgia. And you can hang Christmas lights in your flip-flops. That's not winter. That's something else that I enjoy greatly and miss terribly. It's not winter. And so we were in Atlanta at the time, and my wife was driving down the freeway, and she had one of those moments where she just felt like God was just saying something to her. It doesn't happen all the time. It wasn't written on a billboard or like a plane flying by. It just was one of those things that she just felt like God was speaking to her about the church that he was building in our hearts and the life that he was inviting us into and the faith adventure he was inviting us into. And she just felt so clear that she had to like pull over, she had to write it down because this was that clear to us. She felt like God was saying to us, and I believe it's true, that for us to live the life that God has created us to live and to be the type of church that we're trying to build, we're going to have to hand over control to trust. That we're going to have to hand over our desire to control things into God's hand and trust him with it. That's the first thing. Second thing is that we're going to have to hand over our fear that we have and let God turn that into faith. And then the third thing that we're going to have to do is trade in our comfort that we love so much and choose the courage that God is actually inviting us into. So that's kind of where we're going to be going for the course of this day, because it's the thing that God's been doing in our lives and teaching us in our lives is how do we turn control, let God turn control into trust, fear into faith, and comfort into courage. And if you want to see change in your life and in your friends and in your school, lots of times it comes back to these three things. This morning we're going to look at how we change up, we exchange with God our desire for control to ultimately trusting him, from taking our life out of our hands and putting it into his hands. And to do that, we're going to be working with an idea to help us understand this a little bit more. How many of you grew up playing with Legos? Just raise your hand. Legos. Yes! All right, if you didn't raise your hand, we got Legos in the back for you afterwards. We want to welcome you into the wonderful world of Lego. I was, what's that? Yeah, stepping on them, throwing them, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I grew up with Legos. I grew up in a family with Legos. But I grew up back in the day. I'm a little bit older than you. You might not have picked that up. And so I grew up back in the day when it was like we didn't have a lot of the fancy choices that you have with Legos now. It was the red one, the blue one, the yellow one, or the white one. That's basically how it worked. And what you did with it was up to you, right? And so I have 3 older brothers, and my brother Justin, who's closest in age to me, was a Lego fiend. He was just some might call him a Lego maniac. And so he would build these like amazing cars and all this kind of stuff, you know, and he would take it to the older 2 brothers, Bob and Scott. And these are just terrible, terrible human beings. These are horrible, horrible men. And what they would do to my brother, we lived in a 3-story house, and at that point there was, in this house, there was a stairwell that literally went from the top floor all the way down to the basement. And so Justin would bring him his car or whatever he built, and he's like, guys, look. And he did it every time. He walked into the trap every time. And they go, oh, that's really great, Justin. Is it a car? Yeah, it's a car. Oh, that's really great. You think you can handle the stress test? I was like, I don't know. Like, well, let's see if it can handle the stress test. And they would walk it all the way up to the top floor, hold it as high as they could. My brother Bob is 6'3", so he would hold it as high as he could. And you go, let's see if it can handle the stress test. And they would drop it, and it would literally fall to the ground and shatter into 1,000 pieces, just like his tiny 7-year-old heart. You know, it would crush him, right? And yet he kept doing it every time. I don't know if he just wanted their approval. I don't know. So eventually, after enough times of them dropping the Legos for the stress test, you know, he started just building blocks, you know, just squares. He's like, it's an airplane. It's like, no, it's a square, but you know that it'll handle the stress test. That's the only reason why, right? So I grew up with Legos. You probably grew up with Legos too. And we're going to kind of use those as sort of a building block for understanding what it means for us to trade in control for trust. My son, Elijah, is getting hooked on Legos. He's getting hooked on them. He just turned 5 last Saturday, a week ago. And so he's hooked on Legos. He's loving them. But the Legos today are so intricate and so detailed and so specific. I'm going to show you a picture. This is just one of the Lego cities he got for his birthday. Lego City. Yeah, you can kind of make it out. There's a lot going on in this Lego City. There's a lot going on. There's ambulances and stretchers. It's a very tragic scene, actually, in Lego City right now. That's the Lego catastrophe kit. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But it's so involved and so specific, there's not a lot of room for creativity in it, right? Because you just have to build the thing exactly as they gave it to you to build. And so he got this Lego City thing. It's a big box of Legos, and he wanted us to build it exactly like it was in the box. And there was no exceptions. And so now I'm starting to lose my mind and my salvation trying to put these Legos together. Because it's very specific. I'm like, how is this ages 5 to 12? Like, I can't do this. And we would build it, and then what he would do, he's so funny, 5 years old, he'd put the box in front of him and he'd look at it. He's like, Daddy, at the bus stop, he needs to scoot over a little bit. I'm like, wow, dude, all right. So I scoot over and he's like, Daddy, the man's hands need to be up a little bit. I'm like, oh my goodness, they have a condition for this. It's called OCD. Like, we gotta work on this, son. We gotta nip this one in the bud. And he would look at the box and look at his toys because he wanted it exactly like it was on the box. He had this idea for his Legos in mind that has to look exactly like it does on the box. And I'm kind of like, dude, that's cool, and I appreciate that, but you're supposed to play with them too. Like, you can actually make new things with them. I keep trying to tell him, like, you can add things, and you can change things, you can make whatever you want. But he kind of gets this thing locked in his mind. He's like, no, I want my Legos to look exactly like they look on the box, which for us, most of us, if we were to be honest, is very, very true of our own lives. We have an image for ourselves that we want to look like, we want to be. We have this thing in our mind that we think our life is supposed to be like, right? And you may not be able to articulate it all that well, but I bet if we were to be honest, or at least maybe I'm just talking about myself here, there's this person that I think I'm supposed to be. And I work hard. I work hard at building it to get it to look exactly like I'm supposed to look like, exactly like the image I have in my mind. And I spend all kinds of time working really, really hard. Sometimes spending lots of money on whatever it may be, whether it's clothes or whether it's just trying to fit in or whatever it is, to try and get myself to look like the image I have in my mind, just like my son does with the box of Legos. And you probably do it too. Think about the people that you want to be like or the people you want to be liked by. You go through a lot of effort, don't you, to try and get their attention and their approval. If you're being really honest, you go through a lot of work to get their attention and their approval. Whether it's a group of friends, or whether it's the team that you're on, like,